Just a moment. Well, welcome to our only our second live broadcast together. GevaAnn and I are going to tune in to bring through, we hope, an energy update on what's going on now. I just got the call to go live because I'm reading in this now moment a huge, it's like a pinnacle moment, like a historic moment happening now in history. And there's a historical moment, like a pinnacle moment happening right now in terms of the picture of 2020. What are we doing in 2020? What's happening now? There's a pinnacle, historic moment happening now in terms of the story of our evolution of consciousness and the energy that's on the move right now. So that's one level. There's another level to this. There is a historic moment happening now in the story of our evolution of consciousness in the larger sense. If we were going to look at the larger movements of this story over the last 30, 40, 50 years, there is a historic moment happening now. And from both of those perspectives, from what's going on in 2020, the story of why now, why coronavirus, why these crises, what's happening. This story fits within that larger story of the evolution of consciousness. And this historic moment now fits within this larger picture. And from this perspective, there's a real beauty. There's an incredibly beautiful inflow of divine intervention, grace energies, grace harmonics, flowing and flooding our system at this time, flooding our planet at this time, our physical reality right now. There's a beautiful perspective on this. But there's not just a beautiful perspective on this. There's a physical perspective on this. There's a historical moment happening right now in the story of and the story that's playing itself out on our world stage. There are movements happening in consciousness now that are going to affect what's playing out on our world stage. And while there's beauty to be beholden in the story of now, if we look at it from an energetic point of view, there are movements taking place on the world stage which aren't beautiful. And at the moment, I've got to be honest, I'm as a seer kind of seeing these three levels of the story and this now moment in these three tiers. I'm a little bit overloaded because I've got this, wow, there's an amazing thing happening energetically. Our galactic system and our physiology is being flooded with the graceful harmonic resonance of divine Father God energy, divine masculine, bringing our own inner masculine energy into alignment, reminding us of what it feels like to be present and resting within this archetypal quality that we all have within our blueprints, within our consciousness. And this is happening now. This has been happening over, well, it's a bigger story, but let's just say it's been happening now. And what's been happening over the last few days with this has been an intensification, a flooding of our physical reality with, for want of a better word, galactic energies. But it's more than that. It's divine consciousness, bringing the resonance that helps us remember a little more of who we really are. And that's happening now. And then there's the story of 2020 and our current global situation. And then there's, and how that looks from a kind of an energy perspective, an awakening consciousness perspective. But right now, there is a kind of reaction. The human reaction, the movement of world powers on the world stage, and a call to collective consciousness of humanity. to be present with how we go into the last half of 2020, or the last part of 2020. We are going to be called to respond to world events in the last part of 2020. There's very few of us are going to be unable to. How we respond is really up to us, but how we respond determines what we create from this collectively, how we steer ourselves out and how we steer ourselves out into 2021. I've been asked for updates on what's going to happen in December 2021 and the 2020 to steer us into 2021. And the truth is, it's not decided yet. How we respond to the events that are cooking up now to present themselves to us on our world stage, how we respond will determine what we experience collectively and physically and humanly in this story of awakening consciousness. And the last part of 2020 has got a little more in store for us. So just with that kind of introduction, in the sense that there's a kind of largeness to what's going on, I want to hand over to you, GevaAnn, and just if there's anything, just to check in to see if there's anything coming through you on this. We haven't discussed this, we've just got on the phone. We've just connected.
Okay.
So you're on the spot, love.
It's okay. It is vast. As you've said, it is vast. It is all encompassing. And we are being dropped, perhaps lowered. It's not a drop, it's a being lowered ever so gently into the world stage as it is being played out in the physical realm, in the story that is coming to an end. We are being gently lowered in. Those of us who have not been very present there of late are being called to stand forward and to be very visible. For we are holding the resonance that is required to make this transition as gracefully as possible. So all those that have been quietly working on being aligned with the grace frequencies are now being asked to stand forward, to be visible in the world in whatever way they are called. And each is an individual and each has an individual way to be present. But they are all radiating grace, amongst other things. But grace is there to move us through this final stage, to move us through at the physical level, so that we can create the new world from the highest optimum alignment for humanity. It's a huge undertaking, and we said yes, we'd do it. We're not only the ones we've been waiting for, this is now. This is the time that we've been working for. It is now. There's this whole year's journey has been into sovereignty, and there is a call for us to be certain of who we are, for this is what is required to be our sovereign beings, to be the frequencies that we embody here now. To trust ourselves. To stay centered in ourselves, regardless of what is going on around us. You've probably got more on this with the energetic blueprint perspective.
Possibly, love, and thank you so much. That was really, really helpful to hear and just come back into that center with us. And the beauty is the way to align as we sail off into the uncertain, utterly unscripted, unmapped, unpredicted in this case, and so as yet uncreated.
Yeah.
We are sailing, we're not stepping out over an abyss, we are sailing into the mystery. And the compass we have is, you cannot mess with this. Cannot be touched. We all have it. The compass we have for how to navigate not just our choices, our responses, but our actions. And action will be very much the emphasis for the final part of 2020. How are we inspired to act? And how do we know how to act? See, there is an alchemical reset going on that resets us from duality into unity consciousness. And we are bringing that reset from duality to unity consciousness into our bodies. And one of the ways we are doing that in the last part of 2020 is with our actions. How are we going to go into action? So the alchemical overview of this is quite often, say you've got something to do in your day. You know, we've got to get out of bed. We've got a list of a to-do list, things that we know we are going to do. And quite often, the way we are acting, moving our bodies into action, is we are looking out into our environment, which is quite literally the eye of consciousness looking into its creation, reading that creation and analyzing it mentally. Having made a mental decision, we're then instructing our body, okay, we're doing this now. From the moment we get out of bed, quite often, or the alarm is going off, I'll move. And that alchemy, so it's just normal. It's kind of like, well, if you want to get things done, that's how you do it. When there is a crisis situation of any kind, and our to-do list just falls to pieces because reality's changed. We can't map our to-do list onto reality because we're not quite sure what reality is up to right now. There is a different alchemy for knowing how to move the body into action, and it kind of goes like this. The eye of consciousness withdraws its outward looking into the creation. It comes inwards. It finds that stillness. And if in that moment, just for a moment, there can be a moment of right now, in this moment, for a nanosecond, outside of space and time, there is nothing to do. Then we disconnect ourselves from being responsive to the creation and we reconnect ourselves to the whole. We join the network of all that is, the connected network of consciousness, and we are listening in silence and in stillness, even if it's just for a nanosecond. We are listening as a connected consciousness within the whole. And what impulses us from within as a whisper, as intuition, can then move our body to act. And it sounds like a very subtle thing, but it's the larger call in 2020 to help us align with creating our way out of this from a higher resonance, from the highest possible alignment, has been a call to not fall into the tunnel of doom that's very available. Not to get too distracted by the disasters. So in such a way is that we end up saying, oh yes, the disaster is the more real. Because the minute we're saying, oh, this is the real, this is the really real, that's where we're creating from, that's what we're energizing, that's what we're focusing on. If we use the disasters, the crises, the devastating news we see all the time, if we use that to take responsibility, to bring it back to ourselves and to go, woof, I am responding like this, I will heal my own responses. There is a war happening outside, I will look at the war happening in me, I will heal my war. There's darkness outside, I'll look at the darkness in me. And I will confront that, and I will work with that, and I will own that. Then we can step back from being distracted by what's happening on the world stage, falling into that trap of experiencing ourselves as tiny isolated units of consciousness, banging about hopelessly against the vast powers and tyrannies of the world. We can step back from that play which is happening, and all it takes is a moment to reconnect with that still point and that silence, and to know ourselves outside and beyond that picture. Because while we're in that picture, we're responding to it, and the actions we take are in response, and that locks us into that picture. But if we can bring ourselves, even if we fall into that tunnel, because all of us have something, nearly all of us, I would imagine, will have something that will hook us into that again and again. Even while we're in there, if something can call us back to that still point in the moment, we free ourselves, even if it's just for a moment. And we can face the emotions that are moving, own those responses, and let them be held in the vastness of the love that we are, because in that still point, that's what we're connecting with. We're connecting with the love that we are, we're connecting with the love that each and all of us are, we're connecting with all of humanity, all of life, all that is. We are connecting to a vast field of unconditional love. And the grace that can come through comes through not, we don't need to sit there for 3 hours a day to do this. We just need to touch it. It's enough. Then, when we've moved our emotions, owned our emotional responses, and there is a breath in between what we've just done and what we're about to do, we can re-alchemize ourselves to act from a place of inspiration, in an inspirational acting, which is in touch with excitement, with joy. And the excitement and joy can come through even when things aren't great. You can still touch those frequencies because they're always there somewhere in us. Even if they're hard to access, they are always there somewhere. When they are resonant in us, we can contact the creative, innovative, playful, inspirational way of moving, choosing how we're going to act. What are we going to do in this now moment? What are we going to do in the bigger picture of our lives? What do we want to bring in? And we're choosing how we act from a place that's liberated. And there are, at this time, a phenomenal, an incredible number of innovations ready to enter the collective consciousness. Many of them already are and being very well developed, but ready to, if you like, land innovations that can help us totally transform the way we're behaving in our planet, within our ecosystem. There are a phenomenal wealth of inspirational, innovative, imaginative ideas that can steer humanity out of where we're going. And it's a case of humanity collectively healing ourselves so that we are holding a sufficient the vibrational resonance which allows us to receive the inspirational, the innovative, the imaginative, and to act from a place of a higher resonance of, I am going to do this. I can see what needs to happen, and I'm on this. I'm dedicating myself to this. This is what I'm for. And we're really coming from a place of living within rather than, oh my God, if we don't do this, we're all going to die, which is what's healing. That story in us, we've lived through that. If we just touch on ancient civilizations that are vibrant in our collective memory, you know, we have within us the memory of civilizations that have fallen. Of, oh God, we pressed a red button and we mucked it all up. Oh no, we've ruined reality. We've made it all go wrong. Oops, civilization ended and it was all our fault. There's kind of harmonics of those really old, kind of, for most of us, very unconscious memories of being somewhere like we are now and humanity ending, or reality going wrong in absolutely untenable, unforgivable, not okay ways. We're collectively healing the stored trauma and the memories that go with the fact we've lived through that. The fact that we've been through that, through Atlantis, through ancient Egypt, we've lived through these civilizations where reality's gone wrong. We've reached a time like this, an epoch-ending moment in our collective civilization, and reality has gone really horribly wrong for us, or ended us. And the events of 2020 have been helping us heal, bring up those expectations that we're going to destroy the planet, humanity's going to end, there's going to be disaster that finishes us off. Like that has actually needed to vibrate its way out of our fields, because right now we are creating our future. And if we're holding that vibration of fear, that vibration of fear is just kind of in the way of what we're creating for the future. So these trigger events are way more graceful than they actually appear if you consider what they're helping us shift from our collective blueprint. So it wasn't really where I wanted to go with that, but you know, it's where we've gone, so hey. Yeah, that for me is sovereignty, recalling ourselves to the now moment and knowing that whatever is going on, if we can be in the now moment, we have our compass. We don't need anyone outside of us to tell us what we should do, what's real, what's true, what's not true. There's just this now moment and this compass. So that's I'd like to tell a story, to be honest, about about where we're at, but I feel like GevaAnn, it feels something's coming through you perhaps, so I'm going to bounce it back to you. No? Yes. Excellent. You don't have to. It's only if there is.
You see it, where you see that there's someone waiting to speak through me. So it's kind of like, yeah, you become aware of it first. It's how it works with us. So it's okay.
Thank you.
Okay. These are indeed momentous times. And there are echoes of times from when you have come close to this point before. But you have never been here before. You have gone beyond all the old storylines. You and Gaia have achieved something that was almost impossible. But you are not quite landed. And this last piece requires your unswerving attention. For you to maximize the benefit of all that you have done, all that you have journeyed through to come to this point. This last piece of standing solidly in your sovereignty and being the frequencies you truly are, vibrating out into the world, allowing the old to collapse, to dissolve, to transform. There is a fear still within you that this will be a cataclysmic event, that it will be very painful, that you will have brought about the destruction of your beloved planet. These are old fears. You have come beyond them. But this last piece enables you to truly maximize the benefit of all that you have done by landing fully in the highest frequencies that you can manage, so that you can truly create a new world free from fear. And this is what humanity has chosen to do as a collective. And we applaud it. And the companies of heaven are gathered to support you at this time. We know this is no small task that you have undertaken. And we have every confidence in your ability to do it, for you have amazed us time and time again as you have come through these years. So the awareness of what is to come is to support you and help you to understand that you can come through this. And for you to remember that you have the tools and the ability to do so. So call on all who are supporting you at this time. Through all the realms, the dimensions, there are beings here supporting, assisting. All that is required is that you call, you ask. This is all. And we are here to enable humanity to fulfill its true potential on Earth. So thank you. For what happens on Earth What happens in this solar system, what happens in this galaxy, all radiates out and affects all through all the timelines and all the dimensions that are within all that is. This small planet has always been the trailblazer, always been the cutting edge. That has not changed. Thank you for being here now, choosing to be sovereign human beings at this time. We are here with you. Call on us. We are the overseers of humanity's ascension in Gaia. We are those speaking at this time, but we are aware of all that are gathered. Call on your friends in the stars and in the earth. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much for bringing that through. Yeah, this is.
They hold a really stabilizing frequency. That's what I feel when they come through, is they're very stabilizing. They're really here to help us and solidly hold this. This is okay. We've got you. That kind of energy.
Really feel that. Like there's been the harmonic of fear has been vibrating in me, and it was that reminder that we come through to our center, our still point, and ask for that help. It's like, well, there's somewhere for that harmonic to go.
Yeah.
There's something for that dissonance of fear to go, and that vibration was just dissolving. It's going home and dissolving during that. And what's really beautiful is that while you were speaking, the what I was seeing was this, and again, just before we kind of jumped on with this, is that there's something rising in us. So with this latest divine intervention, this petitioning of our divine to Father God energies, this inflowing, wow, incredible incoming influx of the divine Father energy that's coming through our galactic central sun, the great central sun, through the solar flares that we're feeling in our solar system now. This amazing grace resonance coming in and flooding our physical reality. And one of the things that's been coming up, because whenever there's a grace resonance comes in, dissonance rises up. Things ancient, old, buried dissonance, vibrations that cannot be sustained in a field of grace, because you can't sustain dissonance in a harmonic field. Dissonance cannot be sustained in a harmonic field. So when we receive and we rest in a field of grace, and the resonance of grace floods our reality or floods our systems, or you experience the energy of something, old dissonant vibrations, which are literally stuck trauma, old memories, old wounds, old patterns in us, they can't be sustained. And some of them will just dissolve, and others will come up and rise up, make themselves visible as triggers so that we can see, hear, and feel them, because we need to respond. They because of free will, and this is a human kind of divine human right, free will, we cannot just let go of everything that's dissonant in us without first responding, because that right to respond to pain, to trauma, to what we've lived through, that's part of our free will and part of the free will experiment, the exploration to experience, to respond, and to choose. And it's through experiencing and responding that we choose. And this is why we manifest collective events for us that are less than graceful, less than harmonious. because there are certain things that collectively we can't just let go of. We can't just let them dissolve into the field of grace, no matter how strong the invitation is, no matter how intense. There are some things that we have asked to collectively respond to. And it's like, so in that collective response, we heal. We let go of old expectations, old wounds, old traumas. And that dissonant vibration dissolves into that field of harmonic resonance. And collectively, as consciousness, we are then holding a higher harmonic resonance of wholeness. We are then collectively more receptive to these inventions I was talking about that are waiting for the kind of temperature of the human consciousness to reach the right climate to be receptive to these innovations, and the more wave upon wave of innovations to take us forward creatively in constructive ways, to start living within our planet in a way that's more symbiotic, that's just simply more sane, that honors and recognizes the awakening realization that, hang on a minute, we're not isolated units digging resources from a finite supply. We are points of consciousness within an interconnected field of consciousness. Everything we do is connected. We're breathing with the planet. We're breathing with all the plant. Oh, hang on a minute, we are one with all of life. Oh, well then don't we want to create differently? Don't we want to invent new things? Don't we want to behave differently? When we heal our resonance, then hello Jen, when we heal our resonance, we lift the climate, if you like, the temperature of our consciousness to a point where it's receptive to this higher vibrational way of creating, rather than going, stop that from happening, make that not be happening because it's traumatizing me, because I can't face the trauma. We go, well, I face and own the trauma. I own my sovereignty. Okay, beyond that process of facing and owning trauma, I reconnect with my wholeness. I touch that part of me that's alive and excited about what we're creating that's new here, not what's dying that's old. And we become more receptive to these innovations that are the ones that, I just don't want to use the word save our planet. we are saving ourselves within the planet. We're not really saving the planet because she will heal, whether we're here or not. But we're saving ourselves within the planet. And it's not even that. It's that idea of saving ourselves is what we're really lifting beyond. We're not saving ourselves. We're creating what supports a new awareness that's already fully anchored in the collective consciousness. And we're just being called not to get too distracted by those who are going to want us to believe that the fear is more real, that the trauma is what we're creating, and that our future holds more of the trauma. That's a big distraction. If we were to bypass that and just pretend it wasn't happening, we wouldn't really progress. We'd stay stuck. We can't spiritually bypass how we're going to respond to the traumas that actually are happening on the world stage now. There's quite a path for those of us who've chosen to be aware of things in this way, and not everyone has. This isn't right for everybody. But for those of us who've chosen to be aware of things in this way, there is a path through this which involves being vulnerable enough to respond from the heart to what does affect us, that does produce those uncomfortable harmonics in us, and to really own those, to call in the support that is there for those, to use the tools we've worked so hard to have, and to call in the more that support us in the challenges that we haven't yet faced, that take us to another level. But in owning and facing and meeting what moves in our hearts, we own our sovereignty. Nothing can really touch that. It doesn't depend on anyone or anything else. It is a challenge, but it's also us really becoming our sovereign selves, because it is the sovereign self that meets dissonance, discomfort, the pain and the wound, as though it's a divine parent meeting a toddler that's crying. A toddler is crying. You can embrace that toddler and ask it, what's wrong? What happened? How do you feel? And while it's sobbing or it's shouting or it's whatever it's doing, you hold it. You don't change it. You don't say it's not happening. You don't try and fix it. You don't stop it. As the sovereign self, you embrace that one, that part of, and we're doing this within ourselves, embracing that part of ourselves that's in pain. And we're listening, divinely listening, until, just as a toddler will eventually, in the arms of Ma or Father, will eventually, the sobs, the racking sobs will eventually reduce, will lessen, and it will relax, and it will realize that here it is right now in the embrace of loving mother, of loving father, and it is safe. And we can do this with ourselves. When we're responding to what's happening in the world, we can meet the parts of us that are hurting, we can meet them the same way. Oh gosh, what am I feeling? What have you got to say? What's the voice of this pain? How do you feel? Well, of course you would feel like this. I am listening. I hear you. I see you. And I understand. And as we do this, we are the safe place for those vibrations, those emotions to come up and to dissolve, not to be pushed aside, not to be gaslighted, not to be bypassed. We become the safe place that dissolves the dissonant frequencies that we've all been carrying in our field of consciousness, time immemorial. We dissolve those traumas and those memories, and we heal our expectations. We heal our beliefs. We heal our desires. We lift ourselves and how we're creating. And it's our expectations, our beliefs, and our desires that are the tools with which we create reality. It all starts with that. And a lot of that is unconscious for a lot of us. But the more conscious of those we become, the more we consciously and actively heal them, if you're someone who's chosen to walk this path. The more we lift ourselves into the resonance of wholeness. And when we do that, we're in the new earth. We are the new earth, creating within itself more of that which is harmonious. So when you were talking, what I saw was this kind of two things happening at once. There's another skill that's required of us, which is to be okay with two things happening at once. See, in the coming months, I see this uprising, if you like, of joyful, I just know this is the action I've got to take right now. And it's just like a sea of almost lion energy, in their sovereignty, of people just like, no. Whether it's a clear no or a clear yes or a clear I am going to do this, or I stand here with this. you can't move me, sorry. I am here in my divine frequency, my divine truth is this right now. And I feel a real joy to that. And I can also feel the story side of that, where there's a lot less than joy on the move, anger, a lot less of constrictive motions moving. So just in the last few days, to bring it back to this now energy update, in the last few days, with the influx of this divine masculine energy, bringing in the grace of so the theme was, or the guys are calling it, return of the lost father energy in the physical realms. I certainly found an awful lot of anger moving, a lot of anger rising up. And you know, the funny thing about anger is a very creative energy. But when anger is healed, what it liberates is joy.
Yeah.
And we can create in anger and we can fight what's known, that's healthy. And there's going to be a lot of that happening and a lot of that needed. But you may be someone who's chosen to be in the resonance of joy. And it's like those two, the anger and the joy are very, very, they're kind of partners at the moment. There's anger coming up to be healed, and the more anger that gets healed, the more joy that gets liberated. The more joy that gets liberated, the higher the resonance of our creations. The more we're aligning ourselves with that picture of I'm going to be with what we're creating, rather than I'm going to be taking care of what we need to destroy here. And there's going to be create, destroy, create, destroy, create, destroy going on, certainly for the next few months. And many of us may find ourselves doing a dance with both of those things going on at the same time. Yeah. So quite a lot for human beings to hold. So yeah. Well, I did want to tell a story, but I think I've taken us way sailing over. I think it would go on too long now. We dived into that. So what does it feel like? Is there anything else to be said? It feels like there is. I'm
not getting anything.
You're not getting anything?
No.
All right, well, I'll keep it brief. I should do the mini version of the story. Just because, you know, this moment is such a big moment. Yeah, in the world picture, in the picture of 2020, and in the picture of the geopolitical world stage, what the hey, that's also going on. We've got these historic moments happening now. So, back before 1983, in all the possible futures that were lined up for humanity, every single one contained the ending of humanity. Every single one. In 1983, we were scheduled for an ending. That's it. We were done. I think it was 2012 that was scheduled for, wasn't it, GevaAnn? The actual end. Yeah. In 1983, not if you think about the history of our civilization, not so very far away from that, you know, scheduled catastrophic ending that we were lining ourselves up for. One possible future appeared, a spark of a possible future appeared that did not contain the catastrophic ending of humanity. So we're just telling a story here. So just listen and notice how you feel while you listen to the story. This future, this spark, the appearance of this spark catalyzed a phenomenal response, a kind of multi-universal response. And there was with this appearance of a spark of a future, a phenomenal movement from so many different directions to empower this future, to energize this future, to amplify this future, so that this was the future that became. And the Council of Overseers at that time asked humanity a question. And the question, to give a synopsis, was, are you willing, do you want to remain with Gaia, within Gaia, while she ascends? Or are you going to end? And the collective consciousness of humanity was asked this question. And the response was unequivocally, yes, we want to remain within Gaia. With that yes from this collective consciousness that had the gift of free will, phenomenal forces were mobilized to support our fulfilling this choice and bringing about this future that we are now in. It is happening. We are in it. We are healing the expectations that were unconsciously present of, why hasn't the world ended? Wasn't there supposed to be a world war, a tidal wave, a cataclysmic, a meteorite, a virus, you know, all of those things were in our expectations, and we are healing them. But we are in that new future. It's now. When quarantine began, there was the Council of Overseers brought through a message, which I carried and GevaAnn brought through, and it was was phenomenal. And they said, humanity has been asked a question again. And this time we were asked, are we prepared to do what it takes to ascend within Gaia, to continue to ascend? within Gaia, and unequivocally, the collective consciousness of humanity said yes. Now, on the first question that was put to the collective consciousness that I mentioned, after that first question was put to the collective consciousness, Goddess herself, now we're diving into the abstract here, Goddess herself intervened, gifted our reality, our 3D reality, with the resonance of divine, unconditional love of Goddess, of God, Goddess, all that is. That came with the opening of the Sirius vortex, a story which a dear, dear friend of mine can tell better than I can. I'm going to have to invite him on. That happened with the opening of the Sirius vortex, and the resonance of divine wholeness flooded this reality that we had created to be an abyss, to hold us in the experience of the absence of Ma, Mother, God, Goddess, all it is. To be a reality where we could fall, and had fallen many times. And since then, that resonance, that Sirius vortex opens on a regular basis, and that resonance of divine love from Goddess floods our reality. And here we are now, still in the 55 dog days of summer, where this vortex opens and we are flooded with this resonance. So that was after the first question I mentioned there. But this second question that the Council of Overseers asked us, are you prepared to do what is necessary to ascend within Gaia? This brought about divine intervention from Father God. Again, we're with the abstract here. The divine intervention from Father God. This means the resonance of loving wholeness, flooding this physical reality that we have co-created to be unlike Father God in many ways. Not all, that would be impossible, but in many ways. This divine intervention is a historic moment in the story of our evolution. This is huge. We haven't yet looked into what it means or where we're going with this. And I think we'll do that maybe in our next live. We'd be ready and things will have settled enough for us to ask that question. Where do we go from here? But this impulsed us through our galactic central sun, which impulsed us through our solar central sun, and flooded this physical reality with the resonance of loving wholeness of Divine Father in right relationship. It's not like this energy has never been here before, but in right relationship with Divine Mother, Divine Child, God, Goddess, all that is, this perfect loving wholeness of a new paradigm for experiencing Divine Father, Father God, Divine Masculine. So this moment is bringing in support we've never had before in this way. It means something, I don't know what it means yet. But it needed to be said and it needed to be shared. And goodness knows, goodness alone knows why I'm the one bringing this information through. We've all got different things we're bringing through at the moment, but it surprises me that this bit's my bit. So, yeah, that's just, yeah, I feel extremely grateful to be sat here with you, GevaAnn, and to be to be hearing this. I think I'm extremely grateful to be hearing this, to be feeling this, to be witnessing this, and to just be bringing in this fact that whatever we're doing, whatever we're going through politically and physically, we also are held in grace, and there is somewhere to send the stories. There's somewhere to, yeah, we're not on our own with this. Quite the opposite. These stories are rising up so they can end, not so that they can fill our futures. So thank you for letting me talk so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jen. Yeah, I'm glad it's not just us that are hearing this and feeling this. Can't imagine for a moment that it would be. And it would be really beautiful to hear from people like, what are you getting on this? Like, really, what are you getting on this now? What's coming through now on this? And I feel like it would be really helpful for more of us to share what we're getting on this, and to bring it through, you know, for everybody, so that there's not just one perspective dominating our awareness. That's really going to be important, I think. Paula, hello, love. Thank you. Absolute joy to be here for that. Yeah. What I'm feeling is it's time to start the alignment meditations again. I'm really feeling that call to have a space where we can connect and just drop into that still point. Find our own harmonic resonance and bring that, our signature frequencies, into our reality, but where we can just meet together and connect in that still point, know ourselves, and find that place that is the compass that's going to steer us all through. So yeah, I'm going to start those alignment meditations again. Anyone wants to join for those, give me a message, just drop me a comment in the comments or something, or let me know, and yeah, we'll work out what platform we're going to do that on, whether it's Zoom or where we go from here. And I think next time, love, let's tune in and see what are the exciting implications for this, because with the Sirius Vortex opening, we have the grand opening of the Sirius Vortex 4 times a year, the 55 dog days of summer. There's all kinds of amazing things that have happened as a result of that. And now we've had this incredible divine intervention going on. There's a part, my curiosity part is like, oh, what happens next? What's that going to mean? I wonder what the gateways are going to be with. So yeah, I think we'll save those questions for next time.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So I'm just gonna show us, if you want to hear more from me or GevaAnn, if you want to kind of connect in with either of us, this is us, this is where to find us, this is where to find a little bit more about us, more channelings, more updates. And we've got updates and channelings that have come throughout this coronavirus situation. They really did accelerate. So if you want to kind of back read some of that stuff, it's all there. Yeah. Thank you, guys. I think it's time to let us all go. Lots of love. Take care now.